going to talk about feathers. Feathers are my favorite thing. I love them, the look of them on the quilts. I love stitching them, and there's so many different kinds and different types and shapes and all that. I was really intimidated by feathers when I first learned how to machine quilt because I'd never been shown how to do them, and I just thought it was something that was out of my league and I didn't know how to do them, and I just thought, well, probably not capable. Until I was taking another class, and the design we were using for that class was a feather, and I was just petrified in my seat until the woman demonstrated how to stitch feathers. And from there, I just went crazy. And I found out how simple it truly is. And so now in every one of my classes, I always demonstrate how to do feathers because it isn't as hard as it looks. You just need to remember you have to back up on the same line of stitching in certain places. But once you figure that out and you know that's okay, then it gets very easy from there. I have a round feather stencil here that I'm going to stitch first for you. These are really kind of the standard feather. You see the round wreath feather stencils a lot. This design is very, very common. So I've already marked this on my fabric. I did not take my pins out from underneath. I marked around my design. And then what I recommend is that you kind of fill in where the stencil does not have channels. So you want to fill in wherever there are breaks from the stencil, and that just kind of helps you when you put your design underneath the sewing machine needle. You're looking at such a small part of it, it's easy to get lost. So if you have all your lines connected, especially on a design you've never done before, it really truly makes a large difference. And so I really recommend you just kind of fill in those lines, and so you always know where you're going. I have enough filled in for me. I've done this a couple times. So let's stitch this one so you can see how it is done. I always start where two feathers come together on the outside because there are more feathers around the outside of a wreath than there are on the inside because of just the way that the circle goes. There's more room around the outside. So I always start on the outside and start down here in this crevice or cleavage, like I like to call it. And we'll take our first stitch and pull the bobbin thread up, and then start right here and go around this first feather, and then I go down to the vein. I'm going to take this pin out right now before I get close to it. Then I advance on the vein and I go to the next feather, whichever one is next on the vein. So if it's in the center, that's fine. If it's on the outside, that's fine. Whichever one's next. Right now, we're coming up on one that's in the center. So I'm going to go around that one. And I'm going clockwise around this feather, and that doesn't matter. You can go either direction, but I've just chosen to go clockwise. The only direction to go is back on the same line of stitching that I've already done. So you come back around the same line of stitching, and then do this next feather, and then the next one is on the outside. Okay, the only place to go from here is around an area that's already been stitched to get to the part that's not been stitched. This is where people get lost. So you just kind of need to stop, think about where you're going, and go that direction. Go around this feather, and I can do this one all by itself. I don't have to back up on that one at all. And I go on the same line of stitching on the vein, and the next one is around the outside. Back up on the same line of stitching and go around this one. And then connect the vein. So you're always going back and connecting where you were, and then advancing on to the next unstitched feather. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch this entire feather just so you get a good idea of how it is always done. Now here's a little tip. If you're coming along here and you get on this feather and you miss the line, say I go off the line like that, now is not the time to fix it. You go back on the same line of stitching because that line is going to go away. And it would be a lot more noticeable if there was 2 lines of stitching rather than a line that doesn't quite match the other feathers. So that feather's a little bit bigger, but nobody will ever know it. It's a lot less noticeable without 2 lines of stitching separated from each other. Go on the inside here, back up on the same line of stitching. This one's all done by itself. Connect my vein around the next one. Next feather is all by itself. Connect the vein. The next one happens to be around the outside again. Connect the vein. The next one is on the inside. And notice, this is always staying on the top. I'm not having to turn my little practice sandwich at all. I'm just stitching in every direction. Back on the same line. Do this feather all by itself. Connect the vein, come out. Here's the next feather. You take this pin out. Back on the same line of stitching. Here's the next one. Now we're going to get to the inside. Connect the vein. Back on the same line. Uh-oh, I got way too close to a pin there. And this one, I'm out here all by myself, and this is a good place where people get stuck also. You just keep going. I have to get back to that center point, so I'm just going to back up on this line and get there. And then I'll finish this very last feather and connect my vein, and I am done. And there we are. That is, this shape of feather is very, very common, and it is truly, it's kind of just your run-of-the-mill regular feather. Sometimes feathers can be short and fat. These are kind of long and thin. These are kind of short and fat. And I sew these just a little bit differently because you want to back up on the line of stitching that is the shortest, because that gives you less options for messing it up. So these I sew just a tiny bit differently. Let me take this pin out right now before we start. Okay, I'm going to start in the same place I did on the other one. Okay, now the next one is right here in the center. And these center ones, backing up on this part of it where I'm at right now, is the shortest area. So I'm going to do that and go around here. But the outside ones are much shorter than, or wider and shorter. So the smallest line to back up is this part right here. So I'm going to go back up that part of it and come around, and then back up this part of it and do this one. And you know what? If you wanted to do this the same way as I did the first one, that's perfectly fine too. But this is just another option of a way that it can be done. And I didn't go the same way. See, here you go. I'm going to do this one the old-fashioned way. Come around the outside, connect my vein. The next one's on the inside. So I guess what it really comes down to is if you have to back up on the same line of stitching to get to a part that's not stitched yet, it's okay. Just do it. Whatever it takes to get every feather stitched. But it's just kind of nice to have to back up on the smallest amount that you need to. And I can go back down here, across. This way I'll finish up the center. Come back. So now I'm going to go across the top again. I'm just choosing to go the long way this time. There are no rules, remember. And then this time I'm going to go on the short part. Get this one done. I'm going to finish this vein off because I'm on my very last feather. So I'm just going to finish that vein. And then come up and finish this one right here, and I'm done. And that is 2 different ways to do the same round wreath feather. And it's just something that you should never be afraid of. It's not that hard to do. And once you kind of get in the groove of it, and you've done a few of them, it gets very, very simple.